Creatine's a funny thing. It's available in all kinds of forms. You can get it with electrolytes, and you can get it with a supposedly time delayed release capsule, supposedly. And, you can still actually find products from back in the day when nobody wanted creatine. And I'm looking for the Nitroflex. I don't see the Nitroflex. The Nitroflex label still says, at least the ones we get still say, no creatine on the front. Because once upon a time, nobody wanted creatine. And now, every day, somebody is going to ask me several times, not the same person, but several people are going to ask me about creatine. Excuse me, where's the creatine? Are you looking for the creatine monohydrate or creatine hydrochloride? Creatine HCl, right? Most people are looking for the monohydrate. And this stuff disappeared when COVID came around, and then it came back, and its price went up dramatically. So it used to be that, if you wanted something like these creatine HCl hydrochloride, which is stomach acid basically, it used to be a little more expensive, and supposedly you could take less and it's more absorbable. But generally people still want the creatine monohydrate, even though more expensive. And in my experience, it can, upset your stomach a little bit. I don't know. If you take more than 5 grams at once, I don't know. I would get a little bit of a creatine blast out my rear, as Valentino would say. But yeah, so the thing about the creatine is that once upon a time, nobody wanted it. And nobody wanted it in their products. Guys thought it bloated them. And I say guys because there was no women that wanted to touch it either. Now, everybody wants it. Little kids come in looking for it. Boys, girls, young men, young women, everybody. Non-binary. Everybody who walks this earth now wants creatine. And the funny thing about creatine is that it's become such a huge seller. So we've gone from where back in the day, it was almost like persona non grata. It was like there's a select few people who wanted it just for the extra 10 pounds of water weight and the strength gains, which are insane when you're using lower repetitions. That never gets really talked about much. Well, it's gonna make you strong anyway. Yeah, okay, but when you're using lower repetitions, it's gonna make you really freaking strong. And but you see, I don't know. You're not going to be able to read that, but there's 5 grams of creatine in that pre-workout. 5 grams, a full serving of creatine monohydrate in that pre-workout. So I guess what I'd like to talk about, though, is not to complain about how I think it's silly how everybody wants it now, and then once upon a time no one did. But there's the thing now where everybody wants you to show them where the creatine is, but nobody wants to actually know anything about it, especially not how to take it. So the only question I really get is do I really have to take a lot of water with it? Is it going to dehydrate me? And that was the thing back in the day too. So people might remember, maybe early 2000s. There was the 2 wrestlers that died of dehydration from creatine, supposedly, right? But this is obviously I don't lend much to that at all. So I'll get that question about whether they should take enough water with creatine. Sure, drink some water. Why not? You're supposed to be drinking a lot of water all the time anyway. Drink a lot of water. There you go. I mean, apparently it doesn't really matter as much. It matters, I guess, when you first start taking it the first few weeks, maybe. Things balance out after that. So, but as far as there being a danger, I mean, drink adequate water. And I don't see why that would be an issue. And no one else seems to think it's an issue. And if you didn't drink adequate water, it probably still wouldn't be an issue. But the thing we're going to want to talk about, though, is that I can't find anything on YouTube about how to take creatine in terms of, do you take it with water? Do you take it with juice? Should the juice have sugar in it? Like real juice does? That is what you cannot find. And it's interesting because teenagers, young people laugh at me all the time. I'm like, man, if you really want this to work, the OG way is to take it with some Welch's grape juice. And, take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach with some Welch's grape juice. And, they kind of just look at me like, no, dude, you just take it with water. That's all you do. You just take it with water; it'll absorb eventually. And yeah, there may be some points that you take creatine every single day, and it eventually builds up, right? But here's the things. These are the points that I'm going to try to make clear, and that you're not going to really hear a lot about. And I want to make this. So my point is this: from one of the world's most researched supplements, research to the sky on creatine monohydrate. For the last 30 years, or probably more, I don't know. I remember when the stuff came out in the 90s. It was called phosphagen. And then when it had the sugar added to it in the little fruity flavors, it was called Phosphagen HP by EAS. I'm sure there were some other companies too. And a lot of you guys that are about my age probably remember Celtec and the 70 grams of dextrose. And that was the way to take creatine, right? Because they didn't call it bro logic, bro science back then, because there's just no internet really, not a lot of it at least. And so the idea was, there was a couple things about creatine. Is that you had to take it with sugar, right? Because that's what the research was saying. I mean, Bill Phillips wasn't selling grape juice; he was selling Phosphagen HP. But still, I mean, it wasn't like, you know what I mean? It wasn't, that was, anybody can get juice from anywhere. You don't have to get the flavored the creatine powder with the sugar added to it. But here's the thing: so that all changed, and how it changed and why it changed, I don't know. Because it's very, if you look now, PubMed, NCBI, right, and you Google search things, you're going to find, first of all, let's get this out of the way. You're going to find all kinds of things that are not that clear, right? Like, try to tell me that you can take, what's the right number of protein to take, right? 20 grams, 30 grams, 40 grams. That one still doesn't have a right answer. And it really doesn't. And, the thing about the creatine is that you'll find, I found thing, research says this, 100% absorbable. 100% absorbable. If that's the case, why was crealkaline invented and shown to be more absorbable by adding crealkaline? By the way, you can still find some places. It's patented. That's one of those older formulas, though, that you typically would see more in the past. It was basically creatine with baking soda, right? Sodium bicarbonate. So that improved the absorption of creatine. But if creatine is absorbed so well, why would the baking soda help? And why have creatine hydrochloride, which is basically, like stomach acid? Back in the day, the bros were saying, don't take creatine with orange juice, it's acidic. So there was this whole thing about creatine being very fragile, being easily destroyed. And that might have been true. I should say might have been true. That might have been confused, actually, with the fact that, and I say fact, let's not say that word, that might have been confused with the other bit of information that was going around at the time, which was that creatine broke down very quickly. Now, my memory from 25 years ago says it broke down to creatinine. Okay. Now, this is not going into something about, we're not going to be talking about kidneys and all that shit. Okay. This is not like something bad, right? They're just saying the creatine basically degraded very quickly. And very quickly, the number that was always getting thrown around, if you're reading Muscle Media 2000 and you're reading the Muscle Mag and the Flex and all that shit, it's in the Iron Man, it's that 20 minutes, and that's the other thing too. They used to tell you too, when you stir up your creatine and juice, don't just let it sit there all day. You need to hurry up and drink it. And certain people, that's why certain people would talk about putting creatine into a gallon jug of water, sipping on it all day long. Those people were kind of on the outskirts and not really take it seriously, because everybody knew you take creatine with simple sugars, right? Fructose, dextrose, whatever, and you take it on an empty stomach. And I'm sure it'd be better to take it around workout time or after a workout, but it's a pain in the ass to have to take something with Welch's grape juice on an empty stomach. So as long as you could get that shit down once a day, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach makes the most sense and is the easiest to stay sane, because that would drive me insane. Having to have an empty stomach when you're trying to put on muscle and have your creatine powder, Welch's grape juice, this delicate creatine powder, and this juice that has to stay refrigerated because It's, you know, that's what it says in the bottle. So you have to have this cold grapefruit juice that you sometimes microwave to raise the glycemic index to get this creatine down. And all this is maddening. So who wants to fucking even dwell more than a second on any of it? So you just take it first thing in the morning when you're groggy and you don't have your senses about you and you don't have an empty stomach and you can be done with it. And there, I already did it. I took it and it's finished with for the day. And, you know, fuck it. If I'll take some more later after my workout, if I just happen to have an empty stomach and there's grape juice there. But, you know, this whole thing with creatine, and now here's my point. Some people might say, oh, this is outdated, David, this is outdated. But tell me this then. The whole thing with taking creatine and whey protein is not outdated. People still love to throw that around. Companies still love to throw that around. You'll never see that one die away. Creatine and whey protein is here to stay because, not because I'm a poet and I don't know it, but because of the fact that these companies that are selling creatine are also selling whey protein. And before it sounds like mumbo jumbo pseudoscience, it's the logic behind that, or the reasoning behind it, I should say. It wasn't really logic, it was just found in research to be true, is that creatine, whey protein causes a sharp insulin response, okay? Yet, no carbs, that's right, or very little, you know, almost no carbs. It's gonna be just protein, but whey protein causes a strong insulin response, which is why taking creatine with whey protein is beneficial. That's the reason why it's beneficial. So if it's beneficial to take creatine with whey protein for the insulin response, well, gee, doesn't that lend some sort of credence to this whole thing about juice and creatine? Apparently not. Apparently now every day you just take it with water and just leave it at that. But it's amazing to me. My suspicion is that this is all a scam, this is all about money making, and that this is actually, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, except for on YouTube, you can't find anything about creatine and grape juice, or creatine and sugar and how to take it. So to me, that's a little odd. I'm thinking that your product is gonna sell a lot better when you have the label saying not to have your mom buy the Welch's grape juice at Kroger next time she's shopping, but to take it however the hell you want to with your favorite beverage, which is what they all say. Take it however the hell you want, because no one's going to buy the product that says you need to go buy this extra thing, okay? No one's going to buy the creatine product that says buy this and then stop at the grocery store and get this, okay? No one's going to, that's not going to happen, right? Or it's going to happen, but and it actually did used to happen. So we used to say on the back of these things, water or juice. Now they don't even say that. They don't even want to start the discussion. So it just says, take it with, you know, your beverage of choice. Just throw it down somehow. Okay, so if you do that every day with creatine, with juice, water, sludge, sand, whatever, every single day, this creatine, which is poorly absorbed, and which you're not going to absorb all 5 grams of that monohydrate, which is the whole selling point behind the hydrochloride, then you'll eventually have it built up in your system. But why not? And they're still selling the loading idea, right? You still have this loading phase idea that's being sold. They're still saying you can take 5 servings a day for 5 days, or whatever it is, to get it built up in your system faster. All right, customer just came in, but I helped the customer. So let me wrap this up, because I realize I'm rambling, and probably I was saying a few entertaining things here and there. But let me just kind of wrap this up. And I'm going to wrap it up with this little bombshell that I saw the other day. So, we all know about the gym products, JYM, right? Jim Stoppani, the guy who made his kind of name over at bodybuilding.com. Now he has a supplement line. Old guy like me. I think he's a lot older than me, though. Ripped. See, I do it like the kids do it. Jim Stoppani has a video on YouTube, and I'm not linking anything or doing that shit, because nobody's going to watch this video except for 2 other people sometime in the next 100 years. But Jim Stoppani had a video, and it's actually very interesting. So his products, right? I don't have the post gym here to show you. I don't have the post gym product to show you. It has creatine. It has creatine HCl. But I believe, judging by what he said in this video at one point, maybe it had the monohydrate. But this video is at least, I think, 3 or 4 years old, maybe. and he's talking in the video about his product, his post-gym product, right? So this is an older version of the product. And he's saying, so we got 30 grams of carbs because, sorry, I got a customer, 1 second. That customer just wanted to know if we had anything, a lotion that you rub on your buttocks to make them more, well, she didn't say that. She said, do you have that stuff that you rub on your booty? And I kind of just filled in the rest of it. I said, it's like a lotion, yes. Kind of plump up the buttocks, make them, you know, more round and you know, protruding. And yes. No, I'm sorry, we don't sell it here. But I told her I wish we did because we make a lot of money, and that is true. And of course, as a guy, anything they say that you can rub on your booty and make it stick out, you know where I'm going to want to try to rub that as well. Now, back to Jim Stoppani. In the video, he says 30 grams of carbs, and then he's talking about, he's like, because you need a little bit of simple carbs in there for the creatine. You know, for the creatine to absorb, you need some simple carbs. You know, and it's not a lot. It's 30. He's something like that. I'm really, you know, I wasn't like studying the video. I watched it. Okay, and but basically the product, the gym, and now the reason I wanted to show you two on the shelf, which we don't have, and look, I keep showing you this because you're going to be like, I think I see it, but no, you don't. We don't have the post gym right now. We're going to be getting it in hopefully Friday. But it's a different formula now, so there's no carbohydrates. I think there's like 1 gram of carbohydrate that probably comes from, like, you know, just like it's a trivial amount that's not even from an actual carb, you know, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, the formula is totally different. So he has a creatine HCl in there, and so creatine HCl but no carbs. So, you know, I guess the logic is going to with that is that, you know, the creatine HCl, the selling point of people with the creatine hydrochloride is that you just don't need, it's more absorbable, and that you know, it doesn't require you know, carbohydrates to absorb. Actually, they're not even saying all that. They're just saying it's more absorbable. So anyway, my point is this, is that Jim Stoppani is going to sit there and say in a video that's like 3-4 years old, you need, for creatine monohydrate to absorb, you need carbohydrates. You know, that's just like, to me, that's like proof. You know, that's freaking proof that I'm right, okay? And that this whole thing about, oh, you just take it with water, that is being pushed by all these, the supplement industry to sell more creatine. Because, first of all, just like you're never going to have people, you're going to cut the gym membership of the entire planet in half if you tell people that it's training with weights when they're trying to lose fat is going to make them lose muscle. You're also going to have a big problem if you start telling people that they have to take some juice or creatine or sugar at all. Anything. If you were telling the whole thing, so freaking meal replacement powders. Meal replacements were buried. Lean body metrics and all that shit was buried by people who, and even weight gainers, although they've been selling a lot lately, but buried by people who were basically like, is there any sugar? Is there any carbs? Is there any sugar? And is there any carbs? So every protein powder now is just protein in it, right? All the whey proteins is just going to be whey protein, and that's it. And people still come in here thinking there's going to be like 1,000 calories and tons of sugar. You know what I mean? That's just the idea in people's heads. So they're doing their best to try to convince people that no, every single protein powder in here is protein, and that's not a lot of calories. But yeah, this whole thing, I don't believe it, man. And you know what? If you want a comparison of, okay, so why would this be a conspiracy? Tell me why they sell so much carnitine, which is not absorbed. And carnitine is like, if you think creatine is starting to sound like a bitch, carnitine's the worst of all. But look, we sell carnitine. Where's the damn stuff? Look. Boom. It's like, you think weight loss product, you think carnitine, right? Carnitine. Everything, right? Carnitine, you need a ton of simple carbohydrates for that shit to absorb, right? Yes. The ingredient that you're trying to take to help lose fat, you have to get a gigantic surge of insulin to get just some of it to absorb, right? Some of it. And so but that's never gonna be talked about, right? So anyway, my point for this video is to have the one video on YouTube, hopefully that can be found, that says it's probably better off to take creatine with simple carbohydrates. Welch's grape juice, the OG way, right? 40 grams, you don't have to worry about that old thing about acid from the orange juice, which is funny because now you have creatine HCl, right? So I don't know what the hell they do to creatine now to make it impervious to like acid, but you know, if it ever was a subject to degradation by acid, seems like a lot of things should be. But yeah, I mean, it would seem to be that would be, and I've come across, you know, in the million different NCBI PubMed searches. Yes, I found some illumination on this. That's, you know, that taking it for the first few weeks with something like juice with sugar or whey protein and water would be beneficial, and then after that point, it's not as critical. Conclusion. Yes, in conclusion, somebody out there, do the whole Welch's grape juice and creatine on an empty stomach thing. Do it for a couple weeks, maybe. You know, let me know if you notice any difference. Let me know if you had just started taking creatine, had been taking creatine, took a layoff from it, whatever. Let me know if you just notice more from it being, you know, it could be more fullness, more muscle growth, in particular strength increases on major lifts, right? So working within the 4 to 6 rep range on your, you know, something like deadlift or bench press, it'd be cool to know if that, you know, you actually added a lot more weight to those. Because I want to know if I'm wrong. I want to know if I'm wrong. People don't believe me when I say that, but you know what? I'm like Socrates, you know. I'm just trying to figure out that I'm wrong. You know, asking questions. Come on, just tell me because I don't know. You know, like Socrates.